Hey guys, welcome back, and I hope you're ready for some more gameplay. I know that I am. We got some big changes for our deck this week. So, last week we had a few goals in mind for ourselves, one of which was to get rid of cards that we just really weren't playing. So, we got rid of the sunglasses, we got rid of I'm Still Here, and we also got rid of Lucky Dime. Another thing that we were trying to do was to reduce the number of uninkable cards that we had. We actually didn't do that. We actually increased it. Last week it was at 13. This week we're at 14. However, we did add an additional TPO to our deck list, and I think that kind of offset it. I really didn't have any issues with having too many uninkable cards this week. So I think that kind of balanced itself out. So then the other thing that we were looking to do is reduce the number of cards that we had with Resist. Since our win con is going to be to use Grand Pabbie and Baymax to heal up our characters and gain lore that way, having Resist was kind of counterproductive. So we removed Cogsworth. I mentioned that we already removed I'm Still Here. That one kind of got cut for a couple of reasons. Like I said, we weren't really playing it, and it also was counterproductive. The only thing that it served was occasionally it was alright for card draw, but we already have so much card draw, it didn't even serve that purpose, honestly. So just to make sure that we covered everything, so we removed Cogsworth. We also reduced Fire the Cannons by 1, so we had 4 last week, we're down to 3 this week. Again, just trying to make sure that we don't end up with too many uninkable cards. We also got rid of I'm Still Here and Sunglasses, because they just really weren't working out for us, as well as the Lucky Dime. New additions this week. So we added an additional TPO, as I stated before. That one worked out really well for us. Then we've also got Mr. Smee. We also added an additional Baymax. We added Gontu to the lineup, just kind of to have a body that's kind of hard to get rid of as far as like just basic removal, as well as just questing for a lot of lore. We added Grab Your Swords to try and get a little bit of extra splash damage across our opponent's board for whenever they go wide. Keep them from getting away from us. And then we also added in a Merlin's Carpet Bag so that we can recycle our items and keep our card draw going. So, with all that being said, if you are interested in the deck list, make sure that you check out the description below for that link. And we're going to go ahead and hop right into the gameplay. So the game that we're watching right now is actually one of the best looking ones that I was able to capture while I was playing on Pixelborn this week. It didn't really seem necessary to go over all 5 games like I did last week, and I played this deck at my locals as well. And I don't think that the results that we got on Pixelborn were really representative of how this deck was actually performing. I actually did really well whenever I was playing at locals. I actually got 3rd whenever we were playing, which granted, there were only 8 of us, so I mean it is still kind of middle of the pack, but I won 2 of the 3 rounds, and the 3rd round, it was just really bad matchup, honestly. That one that I went up against that I lost was against Ruby Sapphire, and it's probably my worst matchup, honestly. I think that one is one that we're definitely going to have to work on more for this week as well. And I've been kind of trying to think of what could help with that. And the thing that was really getting me with that matchup was just the number of items. So I kept getting ice blocked. I also saw the medallion weights being used a lot. And then they were using Tamatoa, which didn't affect me in game 1 because they were never able to get them out for whatever reason. I don't know if they just weren't really drawing them or if maybe they inked too many of them, because I know they inked at least 2. But really game 1, that wasn't a factor so much as just my board getting wiped repeatedly. But the items still ended up being a problem, mostly because of, like I said, the medallion weights and the ice blocks. So I think one of the additions that we may have this week, maybe running at least 1 copy of I Find 'Em, I Flatten 'Em, just to kind of keep the items under control whenever I go up against that matchup. Another matchup that we're struggling against is going to be Amethyst Steel. That one, I still haven't quite put my finger on what exactly it is that we need to be able to figure that one out. So I'm probably going to try and play a little bit more of those. I only got to play that one just a couple of times. So I am going to try and play that a little bit more between now and then and see exactly what I can do to fix that. But other than that, yeah, I mean, we did pretty well. I mean, Pixelborn, like I said, that one really wasn't... I don't feel like it was representative of the changes that we made. Because overall, I won, like I said, 3 rounds at locals. So that alone was 4 games that I won out of like 7. Yeah, I don't think the Pixelborn really was representative of how this deck was playing. Most of the games that I played on Pixelborn were kind of odd. So this game in particular was probably the closest to a meta deck that I played on Pixelborn the whole time. It really wasn't that bad of a game as far as the matchup goes. And you can kind of see exactly how we go through here. And it was a lot of fun to play as well. So I don't think it's really worth including all of the different games that we played on Pixelborn this week. I will say whenever I played on Pixelborn, that I only won 2 games and played a total of 6. So only about a 33% win rate. But again, I don't think it was necessarily representative of the of how it plays against meta decks, because most of what I was playing was off meta, at least on Pixelborn. But whenever I was playing at locals, it did go pretty well. And I think we're actually getting pretty close. I think there's a handful of changes that would probably need to be made before this is ready for set champs, which are fast approaching. But I think we still have time, because they're going to be minor tweaks at this point. This game was pretty close, even with it being one of the better decks in the meta right now. And like I said, I think my worst matchup is probably going to be Ruby Sapphire, which obviously is also a very meta relevant deck. But I think we're going to be able to figure that one out. So as I said, I know for a fact that I'm going to be adding in at least 1 copy of I Find 'em, I Flatten 'em. But I'm really not sure what else we're going to need to change. So I think with that being said, I'm going to need to get some feedback from you guys. Maybe you see something that I don't, just kind of watching this game and seeing what's going on there. I have thought about maybe reducing the copies of Hideaway that I'm playing and maybe adding in a Cusco just to add an extra body. Because there were a couple of times that I almost ran out of characters whenever I was getting board wiped repeatedly, which obviously without any characters kind of makes it impossible for us to win the game. So that was kind of a problem. So I don't know if maybe just kind of reducing the number of hideaways that we've got and just adding in a Cusco would be better, or if maybe there's something else that we can do that might help us out. I've also maybe considered putting in like 1 or 2 copies of McDuck Manor, but I really don't know what I would take out for that swap. So I mean, that's kind of the problem that I'm running into at this point now, is I really don't know what needs to go and what can stay. Just having that 1 copy of Merlin's Carpet Bag was really helpful. I found that pretty much every time that I needed it. It did kind of suck that I'd have to pay 2 ink to be able to get either my Popsicle or Fortisphere back, to be able to draw some more cards, but it came in clutch a few times. There were a couple of times that I really could not find the card that I was needing. And I could just get a Popsicle or a Fortisphere out of the discard, and I could draw another card, and it'd come up with a card that maybe wasn't exactly what I was needing, but was something that was close enough to be able to get the job done. And so just running 1 copy, if I don't see it, it's not the end of the world. But if I do see it, great. Because I don't think I necessarily need to see it every single game, and I really don't think that running more than 1 copy is necessary. I don't think that reducing Popsicle or Fortisphere is going to be in my best interests. It might even be a good idea for me to grab an extra Fortisphere. I just currently only own 3, and that's the only reason I'm running 3 instead of 4. Mr. Smee, I am kind of on the fence about. He worked out a couple of times, but I really don't know that I was getting the value out of him that I could have. So he may be what I cut for McDuck Manor if I make that cut. But I'm really not sure. Ever as before, I think I'm also probably going to cut back on, maybe cut it from 4 down to 2, and maybe replace that 2 with Maybe one of those could be a McDuck Manor, and maybe the other could be I Find on My Platinum. I don't know if I necessarily need more than one copy of I Find on My Platinum. But, you know, it might not be bad to have a couple of copies. Again, you know, working on this deck, I'd really like to get some feedback from you guys. So if you've got ideas, maybe something that I haven't mentioned, like I said, something that I just don't see here, just let me know. And I'd be more than happy to consider those at the very least. Because I really want to build this deck with you guys. I think that's going to be the fun part about it. So with this game in particular, you can kind of see what I was talking about with the with getting board wiped repeatedly. If you take a look at my discard, you can see that it's definitely getting to be pretty sizable. I've got a lot of ink to work with. Luckily, being 11 ink, I can get some stuff done. But I got B-prepped several times, and I don't know that I really could have survived getting another board wipe after this. I think whenever it was all said and done, I only had like 3 or 4 characters left in the remainder of my deck, and so that was a little scary. That's part of the reason that I think maybe getting rid of the hideaways, or not necessarily getting rid of them, but just reducing the number of hideaways that I've got in favor of like a Cusco would probably be a good idea, just to make sure that I still have a little bit extra character support. But this game was a lot of fun to play, even though it took quite a while. Even with this being sped up at double speed, we've been playing for over 10 minutes, which is quite a lot of time for a game of Lorcana. So yeah, it was kind of a slow-moving game, but it was a lot of fun. I also liked that with this game, we were actually able to get a little bit of use out of Grand Pabbie. Even though we weren't able to keep things on the board just a whole lot, we were still able to get use out of things whenever we did have them. So that was really nice. This last move here is actually a lot of fun to watch. He told me that he's pretty sure that he didn't have what he needed to actually finish it off, so he just kind of played it out, which is always a good policy, just to see what he can do. So yeah, here he ends up taking out my Gontu. He moved it to the library so he can get an extra card draw off of it. Then he was able to brawl Hiram, and unfortunately he just didn't have what he needed to get Lady Tremaine out, and so that was the end of that one. We were able, of course, to quest out with Gontu whenever our turn came back up and go to 20. So that's it. What do you think of the deck? Do you think the changes that we made were good ones? Do you think there's other things that we can do? The changes that I've suggested, do you think that those are going to work? Do you have changes that you think might work better? Let me know down in the comments. If you've watched to this point, consider subscribing. We're going to be keeping this going weekly while we work on the deck and just kind of see where we can go from it. Maybe we'll get lucky and be able to pull out a set champs win from it. But that's going to be it for this week, guys, and I will see you on Wednesday.